You graduate in the top 10% of your class. You don't go to the big corporate firms with the glass towers and the soul-crushing mergers. You want the pits. You want the courthouse. You start at a public defender's office in a city that smells like wet pavement and cheap cigarettes. Everyone else is overwhelmed, but you have a gift. You love the boring stuff, the technicalities, the police procedural errors. While other lawyers are practicing their closing arguments in the mirror, you're in a basement reading the maintenance logs of a breathalyzer machine. You realize the law isn't a sword, it's a series of locks, and you are the guy with the master key. Your first 3 years are a blur of petty thefts and DUIs. You learn the most important lesson of your life. The truth is a luxury the court cannot afford. The only thing that exists is what can be proven on a piece of paper. You win a case because a cop forgot to sign a warrant. You win another because a lab tech didn't calibrate a scale. You aren't a hero, you're a proceduralist. The shift happens 4 years in. You're at a steakhouse near the courthouse. A man in a suit that costs more than your car sits down across from you. He doesn't look like a criminal. He looks like a CEO. "I have a friend," he says. "He's in a bit of a situation involving interstate commerce and a lack of proper permits." He isn't talking about permits. He's talking about money laundering for a cartel-linked construction firm. He doesn't need a philosopher. He needs a guy who knows how to make a file disappear in a mountain of bureaucracy. The retainer is $250,000, wired to an escrow account before you even finish your scotch. You leave the public defender's office and open your own shop. You don't put your name on the building. You don't advertise on billboards. Your clients find you through whispers in country clubs and holding cells. You learn a new acronym, Brady material. This is the evidence the prosecution has that might favor your client. You become a bloodhound for it. You bury the district attorney in 50,000 pages of motions until they're too exhausted to fight. Your office isn't just a law firm anymore. It's a filtration system. You set up legal consulting shell companies. These aren't for law. They're for moving retainers from places like Macau and the Cayman Islands. You stop seeing people. You see defendants. You stop seeing crimes. You see statutory violations. You're the magician. You make the handcuffs vanish. Now you're moving into the big leagues, federal court, the RICO Act. A client is facing 30 years for racketeering. The evidence is a mountain of wiretap recordings. You don't argue that he's innocent. That's for amateurs. You argue that the wiretap authorization was signed by a judge who was outside his jurisdiction for 15 minutes during a lunch break. The evidence is suppressed. The case collapses. The client walks. He hugs you on the courthouse steps. He smells like expensive cologne and blood. You feel a rush of adrenaline that's better than any drug. You're the only reason the system doesn't swallow these men whole. You start taking riskier clients, political fixers, arms manufacturers with export discrepancies, men who don't have bank accounts, only interests. You bribe a clerk with a vintage Patek Philippe just to misplace a scheduling order. You learn every judge's price. For some, it's money. For others, it's a seat on a prestigious board. For the tough ones, it's just the right piece of information about their own secrets. You live in a world of mirrors. You have a go bag in your office safe, $200,000 in cash, 3 encrypted laptops, and a secondary passport in a name you haven't used since college. You tell yourself you're a guardian of the Constitution. You're protecting the due process. If the government wants to lock someone up, they have to do it perfectly. If they fail, that's on them. You're just the referee. But the paranoia starts to seep in. You check your office for bugs every Monday. You stop eating at the same restaurants. You realize your clients aren't your friends. They are employers who view you as a disposable asset. The end starts with a knock on your door at 4 a.m. It's not the police. It's a man with a heavy accent and a silenced pistol. Your latest win has upset the wrong people. You realized too late that when you help a shark, the other sharks get hungry. You're trapped. You go to the feds for protection. A meeting is set in a nondescript motel in Virginia. The man across from you looks like a college professor. He's from the Department of Justice. "We know about the Patek Philippe," he says. "We know about the Cayman accounts. We can make the bribery and money laundering charges go away, but we need you to flip on your clients. Now you're a state-sanctioned snitch. You wear a wire to dinner with men who have killed for much less. Every heartbeat sounds like a ticking bomb. You're a prisoner in a suit." One day, the landscape changes. A new attorney general wants to clean up the courts. You're not a witness anymore. You're the trophy. You're the corrupt lawyer they can parade for the cameras. You're at an airport, trying to get to a country with no extradition treaty. Suddenly, the black tactical gear swarms. You're slammed to the floor. The crowd cheers. The news calls you a cancer on the justice system. They don't mention that the same government agents used your services for years to tuck away their own dirty laundry. You end up in a cell. It's quiet. No phones, no motions, no discovery. Just the four walls and the realization that you weren't the magician. You were just the trick. You paid your debt to a world that needed someone to do its dirty work. At least the paranoia is over. You were just a number for the machine, and the machine is always hungry.